Have you ever noticed something unusual in your body, like a sudden hiccup that won't stop, a strange change in taste, or even unexplained fatigue, and brushed it off as just aging? What if I told you that some of these strange little annoyances could actually be your body's way of warning you about a stroke that's about to happen? Here's the chilling truth. Stroke is not always announced by the classic signs we all know: slurred speech, a drooping face, or a weak arm. In fact, research from the American Stroke Association shows that up to 43% of seniors experience odd, non-traditional symptoms in the hours or days before a major stroke. These warning signals often go unnoticed until it's too late. And here's something even more frightening. By the time you finish watching this 30-minute video, more than 30 seniors in the United States will have suffered a stroke. That's not to scare you. It's to wake you up. Because while these symptoms may seem unrelated, recognizing them in time can literally save your independence, your memory, and your life. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through 10 strange, overlooked warning signs of stroke, from persistent hiccups to sudden vision changes to bizarre mood swings that doctors say too many people ignore. By the end, you'll know what to watch for, what to never dismiss, and how to act fast if you or someone you love ever experiences them. This is not about fear. It's about awareness, because knowledge is power, and when it comes to stroke, early action is the difference between recovery and a lifetime of disability. So stay with me. Some of the signs I'm about to share will shock you, especially number 10, which almost no one talks about. 1. Persistent hiccups. Imagine this. It's early morning, and George, a 72-year-old retired carpenter from Ohio, is sitting at his kitchen table with a cup of tea. Out of nowhere, he starts hiccuping. At first, he laughs it off, thinking maybe he drank too quickly. But the hiccups don't stop. They continue for hours, even through lunch, leaving him exhausted and frustrated. His wife urges him to rest. But what George doesn't realize is that his body is sending him a warning sign of something far more serious, a possible stroke. Most people think of hiccups as harmless, caused by eating too fast or drinking soda, but research shows that persistent hiccups lasting more than 48 hours, or hiccups that feel unusually intense, can sometimes be linked to a stroke in the brainstem, the area that controls breathing and reflexes. In fact, a study published in Neurology found that women were twice as likely as men to report hiccups as a stroke symptom, often combined with chest discomfort or shortness of breath. Why does this happen? Hiccups occur when the diaphragm, the muscle that helps you breathe, spasms uncontrollably. If a stroke affects the nerves or brain regions that control this muscle, the hiccups can become persistent and unrelenting. For seniors, especially those with high blood pressure, diabetes, or atrial fibrillation, ignoring this sign can be dangerous. It might be the brain's cry for help, signaling reduced blood flow before a major stroke strikes. Here's what to look for. Hiccups that come on suddenly and don't respond to usual remedies like sipping water or holding your breath. Hiccups accompanied by other odd symptoms such as dizziness, double vision, weakness, or sweating. Hiccups that disrupt sleep, appetite, or daily activities for more than a day. The American Stroke Association emphasizes that unusual, unexplained symptoms, no matter how trivial they seem, should not be ignored, especially if you're over 65. A trip to the emergency room could mean the difference between a small warning sign and a life-altering stroke. So the next time hiccups linger far longer than they should, don't just laugh them off. For George, what seemed like a silly annoyance nearly became a life-threatening event. Thanks to his wife's quick decision to call 911, doctors discovered a small clot in his brainstem. Early treatment saved him from a much bigger stroke. Sometimes the body whispers before it screams. And in the case of persistent hiccups, that whisper could be your lifeline. If persistent hiccups can surprise you with something so serious, imagine how much more alarming it feels when the world itself seems to spin out of control. Take Mary, a 74-year-old grandmother from Florida. One morning, while preparing breakfast, she suddenly felt the kitchen spinning around her. She clutched the counter for support as waves of nausea rushed over her. Her daughter thought it might be vertigo or a stomach bug, but Mary had never experienced anything so sudden or overwhelming before. Within minutes, she couldn't walk straight, and her vision blurred. They called 911, and doctors later confirmed she was experiencing a stroke in the cerebellum, the part of the brain that controls balance and coordination. This is more common than you might think. According to a study published in Stroke, nearly 20% of strokes in older adults present with dizziness or imbalance as the primary symptom. The danger is that these episodes are often misdiagnosed as inner ear problems, dehydration, or just getting older. In reality, when dizziness strikes out of nowhere, with severe nausea or vomiting, it can be a red flag that blood flow to the brain has been cut off. Why does this happen? The cerebellum and brainstem are highly sensitive to interruptions in circulation. When oxygen-rich blood doesn't reach these areas, the result can be sudden vertigo, loss of coordination, or an inability to walk. Unlike simple dizziness from standing up too quickly, stroke-related dizziness tends to be intense, prolonged, and disabling, often paired with nausea or double vision. Here's what seniors should watch for. Dizziness that starts suddenly and severely, not gradually. Inability to walk straight, staggering, or needing to hold on for balance. Nausea or vomiting that seems out of proportion to other symptoms. Dizziness combined with other stroke signs, such as numbness, facial drooping, or slurred speech. For Mary, quick action made all the difference. Because her family recognized something was wrong and called for help, doctors were able to dissolve the clot before permanent damage occurred. Today, she is back to enjoying her daily walks and playing with her grandchildren. So if you or someone you love suddenly feels the room spinning and sickness setting in, don't dismiss it as just vertigo or old age. Your body may be warning you of something much more serious. And in the case of stroke, every minute truly matters. After hearing how dizziness and nausea can be an overlooked sign of stroke, let's move to something even more familiar. Something many seniors chalk up to poor circulation or sleeping in the wrong position. Meet Robert, a 78-year-old veteran from Texas. One afternoon, while reading his newspaper, he noticed a strange tingling sensation creeping down his left arm. It felt like pins and needles, the kind you get when your arm falls asleep. He shook it off, thinking it would go away. And it did, after about 15 minutes. But the very next day the tingling returned, this time with numbness in his cheek. Robert's wife insisted they go to the hospital. Tests revealed he had experienced a transient ischemic attack, or TIA, often called a mini-stroke. This is exactly what makes numbness so dangerous. It can come and go, tricking people into thinking it's nothing serious. Yet research shows that TIAs precede about 1 in 3 major strokes, often within days or weeks. The American Stroke Association warns that ignoring these fleeting episodes can mean missing the body's most critical early alarm. Why does this happen? A stroke or mini-stroke disrupts blood flow to nerves that control sensation. When brain cells in these areas are starved of oxygen, signals misfire, leading to tingling, prickling, or numbness. Unlike the harmless numbness from resting awkwardly on your arm, stroke-related numbness tends to affect one side of the body only, face, arm, or leg. Come on suddenly, without any obvious cause. Be accompanied by weakness, slurred speech, or vision changes. A 2019 study in neurology reported that older adults experiencing sudden, unexplained numbness in the face or limbs were twice as likely to suffer a disabling stroke within 90 days if they ignored it. That's why doctors emphasize the FAST method: face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty, time to call 911. For Robert, acting quickly after the second episode made all the difference. Doctors started him on treatment that lowered his risk of a major stroke by more than 70%. Today, he calls that strange tingling in his arm the best warning sign I ever got. So if you ever feel sudden numbness or tingling, especially on one side of your body, don't dismiss it as just circulation. It may be your body whispering a warning, and the sooner you act, the better your chances of avoiding a devastating stroke. After tingling and numbness, another strange sign that seniors often dismiss is trouble with the eyes. Not blurry vision from needing stronger glasses, but something far more unsettling: seeing two of everything. Take Linda, a 76-year-old retired school teacher from Arizona. One morning, while driving to meet friends, she noticed the stoplight ahead looked doubled. Cars seemed to overlap, and street signs appeared in pairs. She pulled over, frightened, thinking maybe she was just tired. Within an hour, her vision returned to normal. But a week later, the double vision struck again, this time with a splitting headache. At the emergency room, doctors discovered Linda had suffered a small stroke in the brainstem, the very area that controls eye movement. This may sound rare, but studies show that up to 10% of stroke patients first report sudden visual disturbances like double vision, blurred vision, or partial vision loss. Unlike age-related changes that happen gradually, stroke-related vision problems are sudden, dramatic, and often affect one eye or side of the visual field more than the other. Why does this happen? A stroke can damage the cranial nerves that control the tiny muscles of the eyes. When those muscles stop working together, the eyes no longer align properly, and the brain receives two different images, resulting in double vision. Sometimes this is accompanied by dizziness, imbalance, or facial numbness, making it easy to mistake for an eye problem or fatigue. Here are the warning signs seniors should never ignore. Double vision that appears suddenly, even if it goes away quickly. Difficulty focusing or keeping eyes aligned. Seeing overlapping images, especially when reading or driving. Vision changes combined with other symptoms like headache, weakness, or nausea. A 2020 report in the Journal of Stroke and Cerebrovascular Diseases stressed that ignoring sudden visual disturbances can delay diagnosis and treatment, leading to permanent disability or blindness in severe cases. For Linda, recognizing that something wasn't right and seeking emergency care likely saved her from a larger disabling stroke. With rehabilitation, her eyesight returned to normal, and she now tells her grandchildren, "If you ever see two of me, don't laugh. Call 911. The lesson is simple. Sudden double vision isn't just an eye problem. For seniors, it could be the brain waving a red flag, signaling that a stroke is on the way. Acting fast can make the difference between temporary disturbance and permanent loss of independence. If double vision can make the world look strange, cold sweats can make your own body feel like it's betraying you. And unlike the vision problems that many seniors might expect with age, sudden clammy skin and chills often come without warning. Consider James, a 79-year-old Vietnam veteran from Pennsylvania. He was sitting in his recliner watching the evening news when out of nowhere his shirt became damp with sweat. The room wasn't hot. He hadn't been exercising, yet within minutes he was shivering, pale, and confused. His daughter rushed over and noticed he was also slurring his words. At the hospital, doctors confirmed he had suffered a minor stroke. Cold sweats are commonly linked with heart attacks, but they can also be a red flag for stroke. Why? Because both heart and brain rely on a steady flow of oxygen-rich blood. When circulation is suddenly interrupted, whether in the arteries of the heart or the brain, the body sometimes responds with a fight-or-flight stress reaction. breaking out in sweat, turning pale, and feeling clammy. A study in the Journal of Neurology found that nearly 15% of stroke patients reported unexplained sweating or chills in the hours leading up to their event. What makes this dangerous is that many seniors assume sweating is just due to room temperature, anxiety, or low blood sugar. In reality, cold sweats paired with other subtle symptoms like dizziness, chest discomfort, or trouble speaking can signal a medical emergency. Here's what to watch for: sudden sweating without heat, exercise, or stress to explain it. Cold, clammy skin paired with weakness or confusion. Sweating combined with stroke signs like facial drooping, numbness, or slurred speech. For James, quick recognition by his daughter saved precious time. Doctors were able to give clot-busting medication within the critical 3-hour window, drastically reducing his risk of long-term disability. Today, he often reminds his fellow veterans, sweat can be more dangerous than fire if you ignore it. The takeaway is clear. Cold sweats that appear out of nowhere, especially in seniors, should never be brushed off. While not every episode means stroke, it is always better to be cautious. If unusual sweating comes with other strange symptoms, call 911 immediately. Because in those critical minutes, every second counts towards saving brain cells and protecting independence. If cold sweats can make you feel like your body is betraying you from the inside out, then sudden neck or shoulder pain can feel just as confusing, because it's so easy to blame on age, arthritis, or even sleeping wrong. Take Margaret, a 75-year-old widow from California. One morning she woke up with a sharp stiffness running from the base of her neck down into her shoulders. She assumed she had slept in an awkward position and tried stretching it out. But as the day went on, the stiffness grew worse, and she noticed a dull ache spreading up the side of her head. That evening, she also began feeling lightheaded. Her son insisted she go to the ER, where doctors discovered she had suffered a small stroke caused by a clot near the vertebral artery, one of the major blood vessels supplying the brainstem. Here's why this happens. The arteries that run along the back of the neck carry blood to critical areas of the brain. If one of these arteries becomes narrowed, inflamed, or blocked by a clot, the result can be stiffness, pain, or pressure in the neck and shoulders. Unlike common muscle pain, this type of discomfort doesn't improve with massage, stretching, or rest. Instead, it lingers and often worsens. A 2018 study in stroke reported that seniors who presented with unexplained neck or shoulder pain were significantly more likely to later be diagnosed with vertebral artery dissection or stroke, especially when combined with dizziness or headaches. What should seniors look out for? Neck or shoulder pain that appears suddenly without injury. Pain or stiffness that doesn't improve with normal remedies. Discomfort paired with dizziness, vision changes, or numbness. Pain accompanied by other red flags, such as nausea, trouble speaking, or facial weakness. For Margaret, her decision to seek help was life-saving. Early treatment restored blood flow and prevented a much larger stroke. Today, she still does gentle stretches each morning, but she never again ignores pain that feels different from her usual arthritis. The key lesson is this: not all aches and pains are simply a part of getting older. If stiffness or shoulder pain comes on suddenly and feels unusual, especially if it's combined with other strange symptoms, don't dismiss it. It could be your body's way of telling you that something much more serious is happening inside your arteries. If stiff neck or shoulder pain can be brushed off as arthritis, then yawning is even easier to ignore. After all, who hasn't yawned a few times in the middle of the day? But here's the shocking part. Yawning too much, especially when you're not tired, can be a warning sign of stroke. Take Harold, a 73-year-old retired bus driver from Illinois. He was sitting at his granddaughter's piano recital when he started yawning. At first, he thought it was just the warm auditorium making him sleepy. But the yawns kept coming, 10, 20, 30 times, so much that people around him noticed. He wasn't bored, and he certainly wasn't tired. Later that evening, Harold began feeling weak on his left side. By the time he reached the ER, doctors confirmed he was in the early stages of a stroke. Why would yawning be connected to stroke? Scientists believe it has to do with the brain's control over body temperature and oxygen regulation. A stroke can disrupt these centers, causing the body to reflexively yawn in an attempt to cool the brain or restore balance. In fact, research published in Medical Hypotheses suggests that excessive yawning can be an early sign of brainstem ischemia, a type of stroke that affects the base of the brain. What makes this symptom so dangerous is its subtlety. Yawning is something everyone does, so seniors rarely see it as a problem. But here's what to watch for. Repeated yawning that continues for several minutes, even when you're well rested. Yawning paired with other neurological symptoms like dizziness, weakness, or slurred speech. Yawning that feels uncontrollable, almost as if the body can't stop. A 2007 study in European Neurology found that stroke patients with brainstem involvement had a significantly higher frequency of pathological yawning compared to other patients. Doctors now warn that unexplained yawning, especially if excessive, may be an overlooked neurological red flag. For Harold, recognizing the connection between yawning and his sudden weakness likely saved his life. Doctors were able to intervene quickly, and with rehabilitation, he regained most of his strength. The lesson is simple. Yawning isn't always about boredom or fatigue. For seniors, especially those at risk of cardiovascular disease, excessive yawning could be the brain's cry for help. If you or someone you love can't stop yawning without reason, it's time to pay attention and possibly call 911. If yawning can be dismissed as boredom, facial twitching is often brushed off as just nerves or stress. But when these twitches keep showing up, especially in older adults, they may be a sign that something deeper is going wrong in the brain. Take Eleanor, a 77-year-old grandmother from North Carolina. For weeks, she noticed her right eyelid would twitch uncontrollably. At first, she laughed it off, joking that maybe she needed less coffee. But one morning, the twitching spread to the corner of her mouth. Her smile looked uneven in the mirror, and her speech felt slightly slurred. Alarmed, her daughter rushed her to the hospital. Doctors found that Eleanor was experiencing a small stroke affecting the facial nerves on one side of her brain. Here's the science. Facial twitching happens when the nerves controlling the tiny muscles in the eyelids or face start misfiring. While stress, fatigue, or caffeine can trigger occasional twitches, persistent or spreading twitching can be linked to neurological problems. In some cases, a stroke that interrupts blood flow to the cranial nerves or motor cortex can trigger involuntary spasms. A study published in Stroke and Cerebrovascular Diseases noted that seniors with unexplained hemifacial spasms had a significantly higher risk of vascular events, including stroke, within the following year. The problem is that most people ignore these early warning signs, assuming they're minor annoyances. Here's what seniors should watch for. Twitching that doesn't stop after several days or recurs frequently. Twitching that spreads beyond the eyelid to the cheek, mouth, or jaw. Twitching paired with slurred speech, drooping, or weakness on one side. For Eleanor, getting to the hospital in time meant doctors could begin clot-busting treatment before more damage was done. With therapy, she regained control of her facial muscles and avoided lasting disability. The takeaway is clear. While a twitching eyelid alone might be harmless, facial twitching that is persistent, spreading, or paired with other neurological symptoms should never be ignored. For seniors, it could be a subtle but powerful warning that a stroke is on the horizon. Sometimes the smallest signals, like an eyelid that won't stop fluttering, are the body's way of whispering, "Pay attention." Something bigger may be coming. After eyelid twitching or facial spasms, another sign that may catch seniors by surprise is sudden redness in the face or tiny blood vessels bursting in the eye. It may seem harmless, a reaction to heat, embarrassment, or even straining too hard. But in some cases, it's the body sounding an alarm. Consider Walter, an 80-year-old retired postman from Michigan. One afternoon, his wife noticed his face turning unusually red while he sat quietly in his recliner. It wasn't hot in the house, and he hadn't been exerting himself. Later that evening, when he went to the bathroom, she saw that one of his eyes had a small patch of blood on the white surface. Walter thought it was just a broken blood vessel from coughing. But the next morning, he developed weakness in his left arm. At the hospital, doctors confirmed he had suffered a stroke. Why does this happen? Facial flushing and burst eye vessels can sometimes signal sudden spikes in blood pressure. When blood vessels in the face or eyes are under intense strain, they may dilate or rupture. For seniors, especially those with uncontrolled hypertension, this can be the tipping point that leads to a stroke. A 2021 study in hypertension research found that seniors with frequent episodes of unexplained facial flushing were twice as likely to suffer a stroke within 5 years compared to those without. Similarly, subconjunctival hemorrhage, those small red patches in the eye, while often benign, may be a warning sign when paired with other stroke-related symptoms, like dizziness, weakness, or slurred speech. Here are the red flags to watch for. Redness in the face that comes on suddenly without heat or exertion. Small blood patches in the eye that appear repeatedly or alongside other neurological symptoms. Flushing or eye changes paired with high blood pressure readings, dizziness, or numbness. For Walter, his wife's quick action after noticing both the flushing and eye hemorrhage helped doctors act in time. They controlled his blood pressure, dissolved the clot, and prevented more serious brain damage. Today, Walter often tells friends at his senior center, "Don't ignore the little red flags. Sometimes they show up on your face." The lesson is powerful. While a red face or a burst vessel in the eye may look minor, they can be outward signs of an internal crisis. Seniors should see them not as cosmetic issues, but as urgent warnings. Because when blood pressure surges, the next vessel to burst could be deep in the brain. After facial flushing or burst vessels, the next strange signal can be even more frightening: unexpected shaking, tremors, or mild seizures that seem to come out of nowhere. Take Charles, a 79-year-old retired mechanic from Ohio. One evening, while holding a cup of tea, his hand suddenly began to tremble uncontrollably. He tried to steady it with his other hand, but the cup slipped and spilled. Minutes later, the shaking stopped, and he felt fine. A few days later, however, Charles experienced a brief episode where his arm jerked involuntarily, almost like a small seizure. His family thought it might be Parkinson's or just nerves, but when doctors examined him, they discovered he had suffered multiple mini-strokes that were disrupting electrical signals in his brain. Here's why this happens. Strokes affect not only blood flow, but also the brain's ability to send signals to muscles. When certain areas of the brain misfire due to reduced oxygen, the result can be tremors, spasms, or even mild seizure-like activity. Unlike conditions such as Parkinson's disease, these episodes often appear suddenly, unpredictably, and in people with no prior history of tremors. A study published in Epilepsy and Behavior reported that about 8% of stroke patients experience seizure-like symptoms, often within the first few days of their stroke. In seniors, even a minor stroke, or TIA, mini-stroke, can trigger abnormal brain activity, leading to tremors that may be dismissed as anxiety or fatigue. Here's what seniors should watch for: sudden shaking or jerking in the hands, arms, or face that can't be controlled. Episodes of trembling that start and stop without explanation. Muscle spasms or twitching combined with other stroke symptoms like dizziness, numbness, or slurred speech. For Charles, recognizing that the tremors weren't normal and getting checked helped prevent a larger stroke. With medication and lifestyle changes, he has regained stability and continues to enjoy his time restoring old cars with his grandson. The key lesson is this: unusual seizures or tremors in seniors should never be brushed off as just aging. While not every shake is a stroke, sudden, unexplained tremors may be the body's final warning before a major event. Acting quickly by calling 911 and seeking evaluation can mean the difference between recovery and permanent disability. Sometimes the body doesn't whisper, it shouts. And in the case of tremors and seizures, it may be shouting the last warning before a stroke strikes. Before we wrap up, let me share one powerful yet simple tip that can help every senior reduce their risk of stroke. Morning hydration with a glass of warm water. Take Helen, a 72-year-old grandmother from Kansas. For years, she woke up feeling groggy and stiff, often skipping water and heading straight for her coffee pot. But after her doctor recommended drinking a glass of warm water first thing in the morning, she noticed something incredible. Within weeks, her morning headaches eased, her blood pressure readings improved, and she even felt steadier on her feet. Why does this work? During the night, your body naturally loses water through breathing and sweating. By the time you wake up, your blood is thicker and more concentrated, making it easier for clots to form. This is one reason why strokes and heart attacks occur most often between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. A simple glass of warm water in the morning helps thin the blood, improve circulation, and reduce strain on the arteries. Research supports this. A study in the Journal of Stroke and Cerebrovascular Diseases found that seniors who maintained good hydration were 30% less likely to suffer strokes compared to those who were chronically dehydrated. The benefit isn't just about preventing clots. Hydration also supports kidney function, digestion, and even brain clarity. Here's how to make it a daily routine. Keep a glass of water by your bedside. Drink it before you reach for your morning coffee or tea. Choose warm or room temperature water. This helps relax blood vessels and is easier on the stomach. Aim for 8 to 12 ounces, enough to rehydrate without overwhelming your bladder. For seniors, especially those already on blood pressure or heart medications, this tiny habit can be a game changer. It's simple, it's free, and it works. Helen now calls her morning glass of water her liquid life insurance, and she encourages her church friends to do the same. If it can help me stay around longer for my grandkids, why wouldn't I? So before breakfast, before coffee, even before you turn on the news, start your day with water. It may be the easiest, most overlooked habit that could protect your brain and heart from the devastation of stroke. We've just uncovered 10 unusual signs of stroke. Hiccups that won't stop, sudden dizziness, strange tingling, double vision, cold sweats, stiff neck, endless yawning, facial twitching, unexplained flushing, and even tremors. At first glance, each of these might look like small annoyances. But as you've seen, they can also be the body's way of whispering or shouting that something serious is happening inside the brain. The important message is this: never ignore the unusual. Seniors often dismiss these symptoms as just aging, but research shows that early recognition is one of the strongest defenses against stroke. Calling 911 at the first warning sign can mean the difference between recovery and lifelong disability. And remember the prevention tip we shared. Something as simple as drinking a glass of warm water in the morning can dramatically reduce your stroke risk. Combine that with regular movement, balanced meals, and managing stress, and you give your heart and brain the best possible protection. If you take just one thing from this video, let it be this: your body is always speaking to you. Listen closely. Don't brush off symptoms that feel unusual or out of place. Talk to your doctor and don't wait. Because when it comes to stroke, minutes matter, and awareness saves lives. I hope today's video gives you not just knowledge, but also the confidence to act. If you found this helpful, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with a friend or family member. You never know. This information could save someone's life. Stay strong, stay alert, and remember, caring for your health today is protecting your tomorrow.